Hello everyone and welcome to this Pearson English webinar. Thank you for joining us today. You can join the conversation online also with the hashtag #ReadyForWebinars. Please remember this session is recorded and the recording will be made available via our YouTube channel after the event. Also, every participant will receive a certificate of attendance. Please submit any questions you have in the chat box and we will answer these at the end of the session. Without further delay, I'm excited to hand over to Amy, who is going to tell us about supporting students' mental health through mindfulness. Thank you, Amy. Over to you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's so lovely to see you guys coming from all over the world right now. What a lovely thing. I'm really honoured to be here again with Pearson today. Joining you from, hi Donatella. I'm joining you from the Oxfordshire Cotswolds in England, in the UK. And it's a chilly day, cloudy day here. So what better way to be than tucked up in a cozy office with you guys, a coffee, and this really important topic that is so close to my heart. So today we are going to talk about supporting our students' mental health through mindfulness. We're going to really go back to the basics. Some of you who might have joined sessions on mindfulness before, maybe this isn't your first time exploring this with me together. And mindfulness is this amazing practice. But we're really going to go back to the basics of kind of why it works and how we need it to work for us and for our students right now. And it might be that it's not your traditional sitting and breathing that we do. So let's come through. We're really going to go to basics of what is going on with us right now. What have we been through so far? And what does that mean for us and our students? How can we best support our students through that? But most importantly, that's when we can talk about how can we best support ourselves. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you always have to put your your oxygen mask on first. So thinking of this as educators, as guides for these young people in our professional care, we have a responsibility to look after ourselves as well. So take on board as much of this for yourself as you do for your students. So how are you really? In Britain, in the UK, it's very common for us to say, how are you? Yeah, fine. So I always try and ask that question twice. So say, how are you? And you get the yeah, fine out of the way. And you go, no, really, how are you? And that's when sometimes people go, oh, well, actually, not so good. Or no, genuine, I'm really good right now. But you really get to the grips with it. So how are you? How are you really? Overwhelmed, from Bella. Thank you for sharing that, Bella. Lots of hellos. Feel free to pop in the chat what's really going on for you today. There's no right or wrong answer. Exhausted. Some really helpful things here. Thank you. Stressed, tired, little bit hungry, Alex. Fair enough. Oh, pregnant. Congratulations, Daniela. So you're probably tired, exhausted, and hungry too. Second webinar, motivated, lovely, exhausted. Been a difficult year. Happy from Richard. Hello. Hi. Lovely. So excited for the future. So lots of some sadness there, enjoying a holiday. Some really angry for the everlasting distance learning. I hear you, Milena. I hear you. There's a lot. I hope it feels reassuring, perhaps, that lots of you are all coming up with similar language around how you're feeling right now. It's really important to share how you're doing. And what I'd like to start with is taking a moment just for us, just for you. Okay, so feel free to join in. Feel free to just sit and watch Okay. A really kind question, Bella. How about me, Amy? How about me? Thank you so much. But that's really kind. I'm similar, probably bubbles of similar stuff going on right now. But some of the stuff that we're talking about here, I try and practice with myself as well. So I'll share that with you too. But yeah, little bit there. But I have a copy, so I'm all good. So let's sit for a moment and get going. Okay, so find somewhere comfortable for you to sit. Okay, so that doesn't mean that you need to be suddenly change into yoga gear or sit on a mountaintop. As you know, with me, this is really about just finding somewhere wherever you are to stop. And maybe you're seated. Maybe you want to stand up if that feels better for you. Maybe if this is your second webinar of the day and you've been sitting down a while, feel free to stand up or feel free to lie down. Okay. So taking a moment now to notice your feet against the floor, and feel free if your eyes have naturally drawn closed, that's lovely. Perhaps you feel that closing the eyes isn't where you want to be right now, so that's okay. Just keep the eyes open if you wish, and you can just take a low gaze or a soft gaze down at the floor. And just starting to grow aware of that connection, that physical connection that you have with the earth. So just noticing what's underneath your feet. Maybe you can feel your socks, or I've got some cozy slippers on. Maybe you can feel your feet against the floor. Perhaps you take a little wriggle of the toes or rise and fall of the heels. And then just tracking up, if you're seated, tracking up to the tailbone. And just noticing how the tailbone and the sit bones, so the little bones at the bottom of the pelvis, how they're resting against your chair or your sofa or wherever you are. Or maybe you feel them differently and you're against the floor. Notice how your legs are in contact with the space around you as well. You're getting a real sense of grounding here, being connected to the earth, steady, centered. And then just starting to allow yourself just to let go here, just to notice how you're positioned. Are you seated over? Are you leaning forward? Are you leaning back if you're sitting up? Is there anything that feels a little out of line or a little out of balance? Just take a moment to, if you're seated, maybe lean back a little bit. Just balance the shoulders over the hips. And just raise the head, the chin, maybe just balance the head on top of the neck and the shoulders. If you're lying down, maybe just give yourself a bit of space between the shoulder blades, just walk the back of the head up a little bit, get some space. And when your body is supported like this, when it's held by the floor, just notice what it feels like. Can you let go of perhaps something that you're holding in the muscles that you don't need to be holding? Just letting go. Just notice how the earth and the body's natural structure could hold you for a little bit. So what are you holding on to here that you no longer need to hold? Just starting to grow aware of the sounds around you. And perhaps you notice the sound of your breath here. Bringing a little bit of softness into the face. Just allow the passage of your breath to be really soft and steady. Gently soften the shoulders as you exhale and just allow Allow the breath to float slow, steady, softly into your heart space, into your chest. Maybe you soften the belly a little bit. And see what happens. Maybe your breath wants to flow into your belly as well. So wherever you are, just taking the natural rhythm of your breath, almost like a wave in and out. And just noticing the wave, the natural rhythm of your breath. If you want to, you could bring a palm to the heart and a palm to the belly. You can come into a physical connection with the movement of your breath. Just allow it to be slow and steady and even. Maybe you count in for 4 or 5 and out for 4 or 5. Allow the breath to be soft, steady and even. As you stay grounded and safe here. Notice the gentle rhythm of your breath. Predictable, steady, even. So just taking a few more breaths like this now in your own time. And whenever you're ready, if you've got your hands resting on your heart and belly, just gently dropping them to the sides or onto your lap. And just allow the mind to go free for a moment. And give yourself a little nod of trust that you've got this, that you're doing the very best you can with what you have. That whatever you're feeling is okay. And whenever you're ready, blinking open the eyes, just allow, or bringing your eyes back into focus, just allow the colour and the light to come back in. All the lovely details and textures around you. And welcome back. Welcome back. How are you doing now? Feel free to jot in a little thought. You can jot it on your notepad if you want to say for note it down for yourself. Relieved, relaxing, still happy. Loving Richard's vibe today. Great. Relaxing better. Lovely. Lots of much better. Relaxed. Lovely. I'm so glad to hear that's been helpful. Could we use it with students as well? Definitely. And there's lots of things like that on the mindfulness experiences page, and we'll pop a link in later on for that. Lovely. So let's have a look. What did you notice? So what you can notice about yourself here, oh, thank you. So Charlie's just popped in that link for you there that you can find all the mindfulness resources and lots of recordings for students. So there's a mirror here. So we can see here this little dude is looking through his lens at his own stuff that's going on, his thoughts and feelings, it could be a mirror reflecting back, or perhaps we could see it as a lens. So he's looking through a lens into his into everything that we look at in life. We look at through a magnifying glass, through a lens. And this little space that whoops, sorry, wrong one. This little space that we have between our between us and our lens is a little space of awareness, of mindfulness. So we can be in this big bundle of emotion around our situation, and sometimes we don't notice what's going on under the surface. And what mindfulness practice can do is just give us that moment of pause so that we can be in that little space between his eyes and the lens, so between our view of the world and the world itself. We can just notice that little gap between our reaction and the situation. And that's what mindfulness gives us, that little bit of pause. But what is beautiful is that pause is within ourselves, and you can find it at any time. So let's take a look at what is going on with us right now. We are human. This is a human here, is it? She and you are human too. Okay, we're all humans. And what is going on with us as humans now, remembering ourselves as organisms, as physical entities, as energetic entities, bodies that we exist in the world as organisms, and we respond to our environment in a psychological way, a social way, a biological way, okay, physical way. And we have been going through a lot of stuff, all of us. It might be instability, loss of social contact, financial pressure. And if we think about what our students have been through as well, in and out of school, you've been in and out of school as well as teachers. You've lost that social contact, or it's been really interrupted at times. Exams have been cancelled, which has been stressful for students that have worked for a long time. It's been stressful for you, knowing how to keep them motivated or how to keep up their motivation, how to keep up their learning. So it's just everything has been a bit messed up, hasn't it? It's all been a bit unsteady and unstable. And it's not, it's even different to that initial lockdown. We're all now in different stages in our different countries. As someone said, everlasting. It seems to be dragging on a long time, right? So just recognizing that that's what's been going on, and technical issues as well. It's really a good point that that's a new thing that we're having to learn and go through is the technical stuff of our trade, of our work, of bringing this content in our education and our support to people. I'm really grateful for technology though, because it means that we can all be together right now, which is lovely. As humans, we tend to have a basic set of needs, and these tend to appear in order. A very wise chap called Maslow, who was a psychologist, kind of working primarily in the 50s and 60s, and then up to the 70s, developing this model of a hierarchy of needs. So this theory that we have these needs that appear in order. And we start off with the very basic physiological needs of food and sleep. We then need a bit of safety and security. So we need a house. We need, in our day and age, money gives us that security, doesn't it? So not money from a material point of view, but just to be able to survive and support ourselves. We then need love and belonging. Now, I'm always wary about putting money below love and belonging because that's a tricky issue. That money sign is there from a security point of view, but not from a, material wealth over connection point of view. I still believe you can be really happy without a lot of money. So that's a topic for another day. So just being careful of that. But love and belonging and being part of a team and a family is in the middle there. And then we get into esteem, self-esteem, and how we feel about ourselves. And after all those things are settled, we can move into a place of self-actualization and growth and learning. So finding our purpose, fulfilling our purpose. So actually something that I think we can get bogged down with quite early on, quite the first thing we wake up in the morning of like, what's my purpose? What am I doing? Actually, you need to get the basics in place first. And once those are in place, sometimes that purpose finding can feel easier. Right now, we are in survival mode because our world has been rocked, our foundations have been rocked, all our social connection has been taken away, everything that we know has been shifted. So we're very much in survival mode. We need to make sure we're getting enough rest, enough food. We need to make sure that we have enough money to survive for the basics, that we have enough food to survive for the basics, and that those around us have those things as well. What you notice is we're not in learning new things mode. That's just not where we are as teachers or as students. And that doesn't mean that they can't learn new things, but it means that we need to take it into account that they're not going to be emotionally, psychologically in a place where learning can be really facilitated and easy. I've got a little buddy fly here coming in saying hi. But what's interesting is what's also happening in our brains. Now, another really clever guy called Bruce Perry, you can look him up. I'll pop it in the chat. Bruce Perry, Neuro, sequential model. Now, he came up with this idea around therapeutics, like therapy for children. This model, this order of development for the human brain. And we start with the brainstem. So an easy way to explain it is with your hand. Trying to find my camera with your hand. So if we think of the spinal cord coming up from that tube at the bottom, and we get to the base of the brain, we've got the brain stem here, yeah, and that's really, really primitive bit. That's the first bit that develops. It's really primitive, really old. It is old when we say, from an evolutionary point of view, it's really old part of our evolution of our brain, and it's where our fight and flight is. It's where our survival instinct is. So this is our alarm system in here. This is where we notice threat, we notice danger, and we notice if we feel safe. It's all the messages to release chemicals to get us to respond to that threat come from. Yeah. And then if you bring your thumb over, you've got the limbic brain, which is tucked right in the center of the brain. And that is also quite old. Yeah, heartbeat and breathing control, Heike, thank you. I didn't raise that, but that's exactly all ties into the same thing. The heart rate and the breath control and regulation all sits in that brainstem space as well. And the limbic brain is more around regulating emotion. And the two talk to each other around fight and flight as well. So often you think that fight or flight can sit in that limbic brain as well, because the two they talk to each other, right? They regulate, they bring out emotion that we need. So anger, fear, stress, that kind of thing. And it's where our emotional state lives. Yeah. And all the chemicals get regulated from there. Over the top, if you bring your fingers over the top, you've got the cortex, which is the newest bit of the brain that all continues to develop. And that's our thinking, learning, language, inhibition space. That's the bit that makes us really cool organisms, because we can plan and strategize and stuff. And if you think about that idea of when you get really stressed, really angry, you flip your lid. Right? We use that expression in English, to flip your lid. And I love that, because that's the idea of flipping, that bit around your thinking, your rational response, your good use of language, or ability to use your words, social inhibition, that kind of thing is gone. And we're just working on emotion. So if you can compare this to Maslow. Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to make sure that for some reason it's not working anymore. There we go. Compare it to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The safety and physiological bits are taken care of in that brainstem and a little bit in the limbic brain. Love belonging is in the limbic brain. That's where our emotions come from. And self-esteem is kind of a bit of the two. Self-actualization is really in that learning space. Yeah, that it's in that cortex, and that bit just isn't working when we don't feel safe. Okay, so you think about where we go to, that bit is not going to be, in children, it's very, it's still very much developing. They're still figuring out how to use it. So at times like this, they're going to be going back into a very primitive state, but we're all going back into that primitive state because our needs have shifted down to that base level. So our brain is going to be working in that I need to feel safe space. Yeah, not in the I'm going to learn a new skill and ace it and take my message out into the world space. I'm going to find my purpose space. Sometimes the two are linked. Sometimes they do flip around a bit, but as a general rule, this is all a bit disconnected. Oh, I've just seen someone said disconnected in the comments. That's exactly what I was going to say. So when we put all of that together, it's not just that learning isn't the space we're in. It's not even next on the list. Love and belonging and being feeling socially connected and part of a team, that's next on the list. And then there's the learning bit. So it's why it's going to be a challenge for us to learn new skills, all the technical stuff that you said, but it's also going to be a challenge for students to try and pick up new content, and particularly with language, that Brucker's area which is in the cortex, is in the front of the brain. And that's where we use our language from. That's why our words go when we feel scared or angry. So language learning in particular is going to be challenging. So in summary, for this little bit, we're not being lazy or abnormal. The students aren't being lazy or abnormal if they're not kind of doing very well and they're not meeting targets and standards in their work that were set in a very different time and social context. And also, if we're not, perhaps doing very well at that kind of stuff or by our own standards, we actually can't learn and communicate properly when we feel threatened, because our brains, as we've just seen, don't function in that way. And it isn't a weakness, it's just survival. If anything, it's a real strength. It's really clever, because would you want to be distracted by verb conjugations if you're running away from a tiger? It's just not on your list of priorities, is it? So that's where we are as organisms, okay? And all our behavior is communication of where we are in that brain. So adult or child, we all have different ways to send an SOS, okay? We need to meet children where they are. All right, we need to meet them where they are. So not where we expect them to be. So we can always get someone, if a child's kind of getting really cross or distracted or procrastinating or kicking off, we sometimes go straight to that adult space of, well, don't you just want to talk about it? Let's just talk. And we get frustrated if they don't want to talk, or they haven't got the words for it. And you go, why don't you just tell me that? Even as a mother, then that's, even in my space, I have to admit, hands up, sometimes that comes out of my mouth when my 5-year-old is finally comes out with something that's been worrying her. And we're like, why didn't you just say something? And the reason she didn't just say something is because she was in a different space. So we're all human, and we all, stick to that. We all go on autopilot when we're also feeling a bit stressed. So mindfulness helps us take that step back, where we can really see what that behavior is. We can be aware of what's going on. Okay, we're going to come to a little bit of a definition about that. But also, let's just calm down. I mean, that can be the most annoying thing someone ever says to us, isn't it? If someone says, if you're feeling stressed, someone goes, just calm down, okay? That's not very easy to do, because what you need to do is actually go right to the base, tell your body that it's safe, and that will then give the messages to your body to calm down. So we come into, as Heike was saying earlier, about that breathing regulation that's at the brainstem. And that's where, we breathe in mindfulness, like we did just now in the start. We regulate our breath. We got it into an even rhythm. And that will send chemicals, little messages to say, okay, guys, I think I've got the fire out. I think we're all right. Everyone go back, back as you were. Okay. So that's where we that's where we are, where our kids are at the moment, is you need to get into that space of I'm here and you're safe. Okay, so we need to meet children where they are. We need to make them feel safe. And how can mindfulness support this? So mindfulness, this is a really great definition. Mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally to things as they are. Now, that's a definition by a man called Jon Kabat-Zinn, who really brought the more secular version of mindfulness that we practice in the West. He brought it over from more and kind of siphoned it out of more spiritual roots in Eastern traditions and Indian philosophy. So what I like to draw out of this is the awareness. So mindfulness is not sitting on a rock on a mountain. It's not necessarily for everybody, sitting and breathing for 20 minutes every day and focusing on your breath. For some people, you might find that somewhere else. But it is a vehicle towards that awareness of reality and everything that's going on around you. It's awareness of your own lens that we saw at the beginning. It's awareness of behavior, and rather than meeting the behavior, meeting where that behavior is coming from, meeting the message. Okay, so I've just seen a question here, name of the author. It's Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's actually an American. It's just on the slide there, but I'll pop it in the chat. Okay, we'll have time for all these questions as well at the end. So how can it therefore support what we're doing? Because mindfulness gives us a bottom-up and a top-down approach. It does both. That's why it's particularly magic. So it works from the bottom up because the body can tell the brain that it's safe. So the body can start to send those messages to the brainstem that it's safe. There's through regulation, grounding, it balances out the nervous system. We can create a safe space. We create a regular routine. All those things, we'll go into those in more detail, don't worry. All those things are part of mindfulness, of that idea of sitting, finding a regular routine or a consistent space, or just focusing your attention on that base point, your feet against the floor, your tailbone is really energetically linked to feeling safe and grounded against the floor. Okay, so that is a real way that mindfulness will bring that safety in. We also, by focusing on the breath, even whether we bring a count into the breath or not, whether we bring that count in or not, we will always start to naturally slow the breath down. When we give ourselves that space, you'll notice that the breath generally slows down. There's evidence that even noticing the sound of your breath has a calming effect on the brain and on the body. And we can balance the nervous system that way. We can balance out the fight or flight branch of the nervous system with the rest and digest bit, so that we are telling the brain that it's safe, it's that communication. There's an information superhighway between the vagus nerve that's actually connected right down to the stomach, right up to the brain, and the breath regulation like that tones that nerve, sends those messages up there. When we're too stressed, there's a disconnect there. So that practice of grounding, regulating the breath, creates that sense of safety in the body. And from a top-down point of view, it actually is a lot of evidence that it involves, that moment where we were observing our breath. So the idea of observing, like we talked about the lens, we observe our sensations, our connection with the floor, we observe our breath. And that's where that awareness comes in. And what that is, it's almost like a little watchtower in the brain. And that is the cortex, the prefrontal cortex, working and growing new cells around it and getting stronger, a bit like when we use our muscles in the gym. The brain gets stronger in the areas in which we use it. So anything you can do around observing what's going on for you, being aware, you're strengthening that the areas of the brain in the prefrontal cortex. So you can actually use both ways to create calm. So you're not just creating that physical, very primitive sense of safety. You're telling yourself, reminding yourself from a rational point of view that you're safe. And the double whammy of those messages creates a sense of balance and safety and regulation. So that's why mindfulness is amazing. Okay. So bottom up in practice, we talked about those two branches of the nervous system. We've got the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. Rest and digest is the parasympathetic. I like to remember that with like a parachute. So you're like, just chilling out. And then sympathetic without the parachute. Wow, I'm falling. Okay, that's the way I remember it in my mind. As you can see from these illustrations, I have a very basic way of remembering and communicating information. So if that works for you, you can have that. The parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest state, and the sympathetic nervous system is our fight, flight, or freeze. And the two parts of one is safe, one is not safe, basically, and you need them in balance. So they need to be sympathetic to each other. They need to talk to each other and go, how are you doing? You're a bit overbalanced? Oh, okay, let's take you up this way again. They need to have that chat. When the fight or flight goes too chronically stressed, which is the risk at the moment with our children and with us, is the sympathetic nervous system just goes too much, too active all the time. It doesn't get that chance to regulate itself down. The chemicals just stop working. They just don't get through, and they just keep, it doesn't get the chemical, the cortisol it's called, that reduces that fight or flight, that tells you it's safe again, kind of just gets a bit into overdrive. And what happens is we end up freezing. So we actually get that cut off. Okay. And so we almost go into parasympathetic nervous system again, but in a different way. You might notice that you look really low, and that's where you get a bit depressed and less anxious and more in that depressed state, but you're actually just kind of cut off from sensation. So you almost need to come back through the sympathetic nervous system gently and safely to notice your body again, to then go into that calm place. The exhale looks after, activates the rest and digest, and the inhale activates the fight or flight. So if you're feeling really stressed, lengthening the exhale really helps, because you're giving a bit more weight to that rest and digest, giving it a bit more support. But for balance, we want them to be in a regular state, because what that does is allows the variability between the two in our heart rate. We want it to have a nice healthy balance so that it can go up and go down easily. And if the fight or flight goes up, it doesn't get stuck there. Yeah, we want that balance. So hopefully that makes sense. But if you want to remember anything, the parachute, rest and digest, no parachute. The inhale brings energy in, brings fight or flight, which can be good in balance. We do need it. We don't just want to be totally zen all the time. And the exhale gives us that balance. We are balanced beings. We want to be homogenous. We want to be balanced. Okay. So how to go about this bottom-up regulation and grounding with your students. Okay. So holding a safe space is the simplest thing that you can do. So maybe that's having someone's mentioned about a regular time in the classroom there, Carmen. That's a great idea. So regular routines, that this is what they do. So not too much change up every day. Safe, consistent, and patient with them. So holding that space for them to be how they need to be right now. Creating a safe bubble where things are consistent. They know what to expect. And when they feel stressed, that it's met with calm. So you're meeting them in that, you're not meeting them in that stressed out space. You're meeting them in that it's okay, you're safe. Okay. And one of the things in terms of finding that regulation is singing and call and response, because what that does is actually brings our bodies into regulation with each other. It kind of activates that social connection, and it brings rhythm and regulation into our bodies. So maybe you have a rhythmic clap. Singing is great as well because it actually syncs our breath at the same time. So both of those can really help to balance the nervous system. You could do a practice like counting the breath, which you'll find on the Experiences Mindfulness page. Maybe you do that every morning with them, because the more you do it, the more you're going to tone that vagus nerve that controls that balance. Okay, so the more you do that regular breathing, that can really help. Rocking and rhythmic movement is also great. So if you're finding that your kids aren't really the communication isn't great, the words aren't coming in a talking class, for example, start with some movement, start with some clapping. You do a rhythm, and then they get them to copy it. Okay, and get them to copy the rhythm, and just bring yourself into that call and response. And that will really regulate things out. You could also to do a call and response song, like la 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 la, and maybe put some words to it, so anything like that you could try. There's lots of ways, and what I really want to do is bring this into a space where it's manageable for you to come up with your own ideas. Okay, so just really teaching those basic concepts. Also, so we've said that counting regular breath in and out, that balances the nervous system in the way that we've just been talking about, and it links the brain back to the body, but it also aids the building of that top-down awareness. So in for 4 and out for 4. They're quite small children, so their lungs aren't very big, so stick with probably a count of 4, I reckon. For adults, it's more like 5 or 6. And body awareness. So anything you can do to remind the brain that the body exists in space is really important as well. So connecting the mind with the physical body, heads, shoulders, knees, and toes. It brings physical touch in, which is really grounding. It's singing, so it's rhythmic and predictable. It's fun. It's going to bring a bit of happy hormones in, but it's also reminding yourself where you are in space. And that's a safety thing, okay? So the top down, again, keep that safe space, hold that safe space, give them permission to feel how they feel, because remember that behavior is communication. And I don't really need to tell you this, I'm sure you all know this from your teaching diplomas anyway and years of experience teaching, but sometimes it's worth reminding. You also need to hold that safe space for yourself. We'll come to that. Communication. So when they might not feel like talking, but they might feel like writing, it's a much more physical practice. So remember that Bracca's area, if they're feeling too stressed, writing and drawing is sometimes a bit more accessible. And help them with some little rituals or plans to help when feelings feel too big. So ask them, what makes you feel good? What makes you feel safe and happy? So that then they can make a little ritual card for themselves. So when I feel sad, I can do this, for example. Yeah. That can be a real way to give them a sense of control over their situation as well. It's a nice way to practice in English as well too, if you did it in English, but if it's in first language, it's fine as well. Acceptance. Feelings come and go. Someone once told me that emotion is emotion. It's motion. It moves. So demonstration of how those feelings ebb and flow, that nothing, however big it feels, is forever. A glitter jar is a really lovely way of demonstrating this. I've got a snow globe here so I can show you. New York, I'm not sure when I'll go there again. So you can just shake the glitter, and they can make them themselves, and just watching how things settle. So it's really calming. It creates a moment of pause. Oh, it's singing to you as well. There you go. Creates a moment of pause just to watch the snow, watch the glitter settle. And it also shows how thoughts can flow around in the mind, but we can just watch them and let them be. We don't need to bat them away or stop them. Okay. We can also blow away bubbles, worry bubbles. So either with real bubbles or with a bubble with their hand, blow it up, blow it away. And what you're doing there is you're actually bringing in a nice exhale, calming activity as well. But you're bringing awareness to those feelings, those emotions that they're bringing an expression to them, and giving them some control over watching them and allowing them to float away. It can be nice if you want that in your classroom. If you've got bubbles, you can get them to blow a bubble and blow the worry away. You could draw bubbles on pieces of paper and they blow them away. Or it's really easy, don't even need any resources. With their hands, blow it up, blow it away. Okay, and that could be a really lovely little ritual for the start of class as well. Okay, just checking. So in summary, this is a normal human response. Okay, so we don't feel safe on a physiological level right now. So we need to create safety and stability. So starting with grounding, with rhythm, with movement. Okay, so sound, connection, movement, bringing that connection with the body, that regulation into the body. And then be mindful of behavior, because it's all communication. Even yours is communication of what you might need or what's triggering you right now. Meet the child and meet yourself where you are, all right, in that place of I'm here and you're safe. Once that survival mode is balanced out, and you'll notice because you know your students, and the emotions feel heard, then the learning can begin. So thinking about some of this, like almost building their brain, settling their brain from the inside out, at the start of each lesson with some of those ideas. And you might find that it really, really helps. Okay. And as for you, be there for yourself too. Be kind to yourself. You're human. You're doing the very best you can with what you have. Okay? So just be kind to yourself. All of those things that we've talked about today apply, because we're all little children inside when we don't feel safe. So go back to basics. And now we've got some time for some questions. So feel free to pop your questions in, and Charlie will guide that with us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amy, for another wonderful session. And I do, I've said this all this morning, I wish I knew this when I was a student, and I wish I could start all of my classes with these sort of exercises. I know I would have been able to focus and enjoy my time in the class a lot more. We've had some questions come in. You did address one, being, is it a good idea to have regular time for mindfulness in the classroom? So perhaps an extension from that. Do you have any resources available that teachers could create some 5-minute routine in their classes, some guidelines on the breathing exercises that they could do and so on? Is there somewhere that you can direct us? Is there perhaps on your own website, or should they watch some of your classes, and can they pick and choose the exercises they like?
Yeah, definitely. So I have kind of teaching opportunity, teaching that I do primarily for adults in nomoreshoulds.com at the moment, which you might find helpful to come and learn for yourselves. So there's lots of opportunities for free and all budgets there to come and have a look and learn, depending on your level of interest. There's also, as Charlie popped in the group there, in the Pearson mindfulness experiences section, there is a beginner's guide to bringing mindfulness into the classroom, and there are some resource cards that you can write if you haven't got access to bringing those recordings in to the classroom. So as I say, there's some guided meditations on there that you can do, and there's one around counting the breath, there's one around acceptance, and they're all about like maximum 5 minutes long, all language leveled as well. So very easy to understand. There's also resources for adults as well. So bringing those, bringing a practice like that into the classroom is really, really great. In terms of how you might bring that regular time in, there's some resources in the blogs actually on that site as well, where we talk a lot more about some of those ideas about actually bringing it practically into the classroom. So I'd guide you there to go and have a look. But you might find that literally just 5 minutes at the start of a session, or even 2 minutes of doing those activities, you're going to find that the learning goes in better than if they're skipped and you carry on and just try and put that information on when their learning bit of their brain isn't optimized and activated properly. Yeah, so just giving a bit of centering and grounding. So like we did this morning, we had some time to ground and relax and rest and center before we started learning some new stuff. And the difference in your comments about that, about how you felt at the start before we did that compared to how we felt after we did that activity, that breath meditation, was amazing. So just seeing that effect can have on your students as well. Okay. Oh, and Donatella, yeah, yes, you've just recommended there's an Italian translation of that guide as well. So that's a really great place to start.
Fantastic, thank you. And how about once the teachers have figured out a routine, we've got some questions here around motivation. So how can you get a reluctant student to take part in these breathing exercises? Perhaps it's just a process of persuasion, maybe trying the exercises one-on-one with them before trying it with the class. Do you have any ideas or tips?
I mean, motivation is always going to be a thing, and particularly with teenagers as well. I think they can, it really is at the moment when you feel unsafe, and just remembering that teenagers' brains are going totally haywire. They're basically like toddlers, but they have a lot more social responsibility. So they don't realize it, but they don't necessarily feel that safe. So doing something new, they're going to want control over that and control over their own experience. So maybe you give them a track, give them the access to one of the downloads on the Pearson website to try at home. You could invite them. You can only ever invite them to take part. And so if you don't want to join in, just do this activity instead, or sit quietly. And you might find that in time they join in, but you can never force somebody to do that. That will probably heighten their fight or flight even more. And it really needs to be their own experience with it. So everyone starts from a different place. Meet them where they are. If they don't feel like they want to engage in that, it's probably coming from a place of not understanding, fear or control, a need for power and control over their own experience right now. So just meeting them where they are with that. If you've got the capacity to, giving them, as something else that they can be doing, or just ask them to sit quietly and invite everyone, say, you don't need to join in. We're going to be doing this for 5 minutes, but you don't need to join in. Join in if you want to, but go through the motions, and in time, they will join in.
Brilliant, thank you.
Sorry to interrupt, Charlie. So I was just going to say, if you do know that students have perhaps a labelled mental health condition, a diagnosed condition like ADHD or autism, these practices are all really suitable. However, you may find that they resonate more with the movement practices, the more the regulation practices, that the breathing might be a little bit too abstract. So all of it works in the same way. Even the clapping and the rhythm has a very similar effect to the breathing. if they don't want to just focus on the breath, you can get them to do it in a different way, or a nice regular rhythm song can be really nice as well. Like Kumbaya is a nice one. That's a really nice regular. A lot of these songs come from these quite tribal practices of rhythm and call and response traditions. So they often have those qualities to them.
Thank you. So we've actually had a couple of sessions addressing motivating students and dealing with perhaps those students who are not comfortable to get involved in exercising classes. So please check out the schedule that I've shared there, the first link, the Ready for What's Next webinar series, and you can catch up with any sessions you've missed at the YouTube link that I've just shared also. So again, that's for sessions that we've already delivered, talking about motivating students and getting them involved with the exercises you're doing in class. So just one small question left, and that's the name of an Indian author you mentioned for your session. Can we perhaps have a look at the slide if with his name?
It was he's not Indian, he's actually American, but he spent a lot of time in the East learning about mindfulness. So I'll just find his name for you. It's John Kabat-Zinn. He's got a brilliant book. Bear with me a second, I'm finding the slide. It's got a brilliant book called Finding Peace in a Frantic World. Mindfulness, Finding Peace in a Frantic World is his, is it his text? Oh, no, that's not his text. Sorry, that's somebody else. But they were very much influenced by him. But that's a really great book if you want to learn more. But this is John Kabat-Zinn here. And he developed a system called, I'm just popping it into the public chat for you. He developed a system called mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR. You might have heard of that, which is a very kind of clinical application of it, but is really influenced quite a lot of Penman and Williams. Thank you, Vanessa. Hello, Vanessa. Nice to see you. The book is Mindfulness, Finding Peace in a Frantic World by Penman and Williams. There we go. And there's a CD with that one as well. But as I say, there's lots of adult-focused recordings on the Pearson website as well. I also run every Monday to Thursday at 7 a.m. UK time. I do a 10-minute move and breathe free session on my Facebook page, my Facebook group. So if you very well put the thing in for that, if you want to have a little bit of practice for yourself, then come and join us. You need that motivation.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
Lovely.
Good stuff.
Take care, my loves. It's really nice to see you all. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Amy, for delivering that, putting together the slides and delivering the presentation to us. You can see from the comments that it's greatly appreciated and well received. And thank you to all of you for taking the time out of your day to join us. We hope it's been a fruitful session for you. Quick note that certificates of attendance will be sent out. The recordings will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And please look out for the virtual goodie bag, where there'll be a list of useful links for you to find out more. And I'll also just highlight the URL that I've pinned at the top of the chat box currently, which is a brief guide put together by Amy and Pearson, so you can learn all you need to know about mindfulness. And I'm sure there are further links within that guide for you to dig deeper. So again, thank you for joining us, and I wish you all a pleasant rest of your day, and stay safe. So thank you very much, and goodbye.